What's your question? It's an immigration question.
Question for you is, when you become president, what would be your specific steps? Yeah, of course. What would be your specific steps to strengthening the border?
So it's a wonderful and important question. You know, my background was as a prosecutor, and I was also the elected attorney general for 2 terms of a border state. So this is not a theoretical issue for me. This is something I've actually worked on. Okay. I have prosecuted transnational criminal organizations for the trafficking of guns, drugs, and human beings. I take very seriously the importance of having a secure border and ensuring the safety of the American people. Sadly, where we are now can be traced most recently back to the fact that when the United States Congress, members of the Congress, including some of the most conservative Republicans, came up with a border security bill. And here's what that border security bill would have done. It would have put 1,500 more.
Now, before we even get to that, and I was having this conversation with a few of my friends, my sister, all the people who are voting for Kamala Harris and don't want to vote for Donald Trump. I get it. But, you know, she's going to go back to this bipartisan bill, but she's not going to talk about the specifics that were in the bipartisan bill. But first and foremost, let's just say the bipartisan bill that she's about to talk about, it fell apart because Donald Trump didn't want it to happen and the Republicans didn't want it to happen for political reasons, right? Let's just say that that's true, right? If you see that we have a big crisis of immigrants coming in, illegal immigrants coming into the country, I would think the whole goal would be to either come up with a new bill, right? Or if there was no bill that could be agreed upon, then we might do an executive order to actually shut the border down if you see that you have millions of people in the country. Because like we know, there's still about 15 million plus migrants who came into the country that came in illegally, right?
More border agents at the border. Let me tell you, those border agents are working around the clock. It would have just been about giving them some support and relief.
Now, keep in mind, the question he asked her, if you're elected president, what specifically would you do for border security? She's not answering that. Now she wants to go back and talk about that bill.
Which is probably why the border agents actually endorsed the bill. It would have allowed us to stem the flow of fentanyl. And I'm looking at people from all over the country here, so I don't need to tell the folks who are watching this what fentanyl has done to families, to kids in our country, and the need to take seriously stemming the flow coming into our country and addressing that extraordinary and tragic issue in terms of its effect. The bill would have allowed us to have more resources to prosecute transnational criminal organizations. And it would have been part of the solution. And Donald Trump called up those folks and said, don't put that bill on the floor for a vote. He blocked the bill, and you know why? Because he'd prefer to run on a problem instead of fixing a problem.
So let's stop right there, right? So the theory is that Donald Trump called into his Republican comrades and said, let's block this bill. So we'd have to believe that Donald Trump is that evil that he would rather have 15 to 20 million migrants in the country. That's his goal. He wanted that many illegal immigrants in the country just so he could come back around, because he lost the election, right? He lost the election in 2020, right? So that means he wanted all these immigrants to come into the country illegally just so he could create the problem to come back in and run on it in 2024. That's what we have to believe. That's what they're handing you. And that's what I'm saying is that, look, it's just not a likely thing. It just doesn't make sense. Donald Trump, he was already president for 4 years. So if he's wants to have the country have a huge problem this bad just to come back and run on it and fix the problem, it just seems a little bit crazy to me.